following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
My name is Jasmine, and I am a recovering drug addict.
My name is Richie Farrell, aka the Old White Junkie.
And we are your hosts for Exit Team Nashua.
Our mission is to bring recovery into the living room.
Last year, over 72,000 Americans died of an accidental overdose.
That's almost 200 Americans every single day.
We will bring you guests with real-life experiences with addiction and recovery. Welcome to Exit Team Nashua. Hi, welcome to Exit Team Nashua. My name is Jasmine, and I am your host. Exit Team takes people with real-life experience with addiction, and we bring it right into your living room. I can't talk today.
Wow. you can't talk anytime. It's cool. Don't worry.
Thank you.
Everybody's stretching.
As usual, Bobby's here to make the show a great time.
I try.
Thank you, Bobby.
I try.
You know.
You gotta bring some life to it.
Yeah. Hi, Justin.
Hi, Justin.
For those of you watching, so Justin is a dear friend of mine, and you know, someone that I also work with, you know, in the trenches. But so here on Exit Team, we take people who have experience with addiction, whether it be their personal experience, a loved one's experience, or anything like that. We bring them on the show to share their experience, strength, and hope, and also offer resources and help for anyone who's watching. So the show's literally yours. It's all about you. We can talk about your experience. We can talk about your work. We can talk about whatever it is that you want. But before we dive into that, I would like for you to tell us how you qualify to be on the show.
Sure. Well, thank you, Jasmine, for having me. It's definitely cool to be here. Don't tell me it's all about me, though. That's never good.
No.
Yeah.
It's all about you. Don't worry. Just self-will run riot and tell me how it works.
If we don't make it about you, it's going to be about Bobby. So
that's true.
Listen.
So
we're just giving the people what they want. It's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
So my name is Justin Reynolds. I'm a person in long-term recovery. I got sober November 10th of 2013. So it's a little over 5 years now. Heroin addict, cocaine addict, alcoholic, anything you put in front of me. I've also been working in the drug and alcohol treatment field since I was about 9 months sober. So,
wow.
So a bit of experience doing that. So, yeah, I think that would definitely qualify me to get this
As
seat.
a person who works in treatment, like, not for yourself personally, but for people who are seeking treatment, what is one of the biggest struggles that you see?
For someone seeking treatment, I mean, it's the whole process. I know, I was actually thinking about this today, just even going back to when I was first seeking treatment, what a chaotic process that was and can be for my family, for myself. Because like when I'm kind of at that place where I'm thinking about, like, yeah, maybe I should stop doing this. Like my life is pretty awful. Like I don't want to die. But still there's that other piece of me that doesn't want to stop either.
Yeah.
And it's like a very conflicting time for me. And then you throw my family in the mix, who was absolutely tortured by my behavior for years and didn't know what to do with me. And then there was that kind of brief window where I was just like, okay. And it's like, all right, what do you do now? And for me, I'm from Massachusetts, and I was on Mass state insurance at the time. And I would call in places. And at the time, there's quite a few facilities that will take Mass Health, thankfully. But I would call in, and it'd be like, all right, call back in a couple hours. All right, call back tomorrow. All right, call back, and it's so easy for me to lose that willingness. Like when I'm actually ready to go in. So like that can be a tough process. And it's cool now that because I work in admissions in the job I'm in now. And part of kind of what I do and like what my team does is like, we do our absolute best, no matter whether you're a fit for our facility or your insurance works with our facility, is to help you and guide you through that chaotic process, whether it's work with your family, work with you, and follow through until you get in somewhere.
Help you somewhere no matter what.
Mhm.
So for those people watching at home, how can someone contact, because you work in an admissions department for a treatment center, how can someone contact you if they have questions, they need resources, or they have a loved one struggling?
Yeah, you can contact me on my direct line, and that will
Okay.
go right to my office. There's two of us that work in the office.
What's the number?
You can call me at 413-854-3972,
Perfect.
and that will reach me. I'll answer that phone. And
That's
like
awesome.
me and my team will do our best to guide you and support you through that process, which is cool. We have people that have called in and like we'll check up on them until they find somewhere to go.
That can be very draining sometimes, because I do the same thing. 90% of phone calls that I receive from people, they're homeless, they don't have insurance, and like, what do you say? Oh, I'm sorry, you don't have insurance, I can't help you. Like, no.
Right,
Like,
right.
You give them as
like,
Right.
you make sure they get somewhere.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there are times that I'm like driving out places, picking people up, bringing them to the safe stations, calling them every day while they're on waiting lists, like just telling them that I love them.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, you
Right.
know, I feel terrible that I can't provide the resources that someone needs for them. The very least I can do is just call and let them know I
Yeah.
care, you know.
And it's amazing to me the amount of people that I've heard that have called in and been like, oh my God, like I can't believe after I said I have Medicaid, you're still talking to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, that's terrible.
Because a lot of people just
Yeah.
hang up the phone on them and that's it.
It's horrible. So I believe like the law of the universe is like good feeds good,
Mhm.
you know. So with that, good karma is gonna come your way
Right.
for that.
That's bottom line why we all got into this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Like I got
us-
into this to help somebody.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just like somebody helped me.
Mhm.
You know, like the fact of you were talking like I didn't know where to go. Like literally the only reason I went to my first treatment center that I did was because the kid I was getting high with had really good results and he went there.
Right, right.
I'd like you to really think about that. The kid I was actively getting high with told me go to this place because they have really good results. I went there.
Wasn't the results you were looking for, was it?
No, it was like, but in my head I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
You
Totally
get there,
go
like,
there.
what is this?
Oh, it was beautiful. It was a nice place down in Florida. But no, it was the
No,
like
hey, hold on. Let's back it up. Not to like say Florida treatment's bad. Florida has some good treatment centers.
no, I'm saying it was beautiful.
Okay.
It was in Florida. Like it wasn't like a Epidemic. You know what I
Right,
mean? It was a nice place. Well,
Keep moving.
moving on. Back to you.
So you talked about how you put your family through so much.
Mhm.
So we actually do have a lot of family members that watch the show, and we have family members all the time that send in questions. We have family members that reach out for help. We have a Facebook page called "I Am a Heroin Addict," and our instant messenger is going off all the time with family members of loved ones. Not the actual, I mean, people with substance use disorder do reach out, but a lot of times it's family members. So like, what did that experience from your perspective look like for your family, and what was the best thing that your family did to help you?
I mean, the kind of how it worked for me was
How it worked?
I was on my way, like at the end there, I was on my way to pick up. I ended up getting stopped and my grandmother's car impounded. And
That's such a great story.
and this
I want to see where this goes.
this state
Hold on,
trooper,
what kind of car was it?
Ford Taurus.
Okay.
Second, I think it was second or third
I-
time I've gotten that car impounded.
I was
on
picturing
it.
like a Buick, so a Ford Taurus is a little bit better. Okay.
poor grandma.
Thank you, Grandma. I love you. And so the state cop kind of intervened, and he came to the scene, and he ended up actually being very kind to me, and took a little bit extra time than he usually that most law enforcement usually did with me. And he offered to give me a ride back to my parents' house, and then he talked to my family, and like because I didn't want to, and it was like that brief moment where like I didn't know if I wanted to be sober or what I wanted, but I didn't want to keep living like I was living,
Right.
No.
and I was deathly afraid to pursue sobriety, and because I get so uncomfortable when I'm sober. And he talked to my parents, and my mother basically said, and my father said, that this is it. You either go to treatment are like, we're done.
So they gave you that
Yeah.
ultimatum.
We're done.
Mhm.
And like they had enabled me, of course, and they went through their process. And like the best thing they did was get educated about the disease. And they had people.
How did they do that?
So they went to, there was a bunch of like family programs and I'm a guy who went to multiple treatment centers. And
Hey.
and so they kind of started getting educated and different family support groups. My parents are involved in Learn to Cope in Massachusetts. That's been huge for them.
So almost every guest that we have brought on the show, and when we talk about resources for family, Learn to Cope
Learn to
comes
Cope
up.
Oh, yeah.
is an amazing,
Yeah.
amazing organization, and it's helped my parents a ton.
Mhm.
My parents are actually facilitors of a meeting now, which is
Stop.
good.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And
Justin.
yeah, it's cool.
Look at your everything you went through, how resourceful it is to help others. Like now your family, not only do they get their own healing, but now they get to help other families have their healing.
Right, and I remember like talking to my mom when she was first doing it, and she was explaining like this feeling that she gets from helping the other families, and I'm like, wow, like that's the same feeling I get when I'm helping another alcoholic or an addict. Like that's just that good feeling. And so like we were relating and connecting on that level, which was cool. So they said like, that's it, like we'll support you if you're getting well,
Yeah.
and if not, and it took a lot of coaching from a lot of people. And I went to detox, tried to leave detox, ended up staying, and then came up to New Hampshire for treatment. Actually, the guy who's going to be on next is the guy who got me into treatment up in New Hampshire, and coached my family a lot on kind of what to do.
I'll
And,
have to drill him on resources.
and they held the boundary, and I would call every day for the first month or two, like, I need to get out of here. This place is awful. They're doing this, and I just lie,
They're hitting me. They're not feeding me.
And
That's
like,
so great.
and I tell families that I work with now, like, I would say whatever I thought I could say to get like an emotional reaction out of my parents.
Yeah.
Because, like, when I get sober, I get uncomfortable if I'm not working some kind of recovery program.
Mm-hmm.
And I just couldn't stand sitting in my own skin. But they held that boundary, and it was getting close to winter, and I don't do well outside in the winter. So I stayed, and I worked a program of recovery begrudgingly. Like I wasn't one of those guys who was like really gung-ho about recovery.
It's weird. It's almost like you were trudging the road to
Right.
happy dust.
And it worked.
So weird.
And it worked. And I'm very grateful to my mother and father and my whole family that kind of had my back in that sense. I wasn't happy at first.
Mm-hmm.
I said some awful things to them at first, but like I'm
Aw.
grateful that they held that line, because if not, I don't know if I would be here.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. You had hold on, what did you say? You had talked about, oh shoot, I can't remember. It was something to do. Anyways, okay. Let's just keep moving on. So
Okay.
your family held a really strong boundary with you.
Mhm.
You came up to New Hampshire. How did you find that like you wanted to work in treatment?
At first I didn't at
Okay.
all. Like I didn't really.
Because you started working in treatment at 9 months, you
Yeah,
said,
it was
which,
about-
Yeah.
which is like, for some people, they think that's pretty early.
Pretty early, yeah.
I started working in treatment at 4 months, and people around me were freaking out. They were like, this treatment center is going to kill you.
Mhm.
And it ended up, for me, I would never recommend ever that anybody start working in treatment at 4 months, by the way,
Yeah.
but for me,
Yeah.
it was exactly what I had needed. So,
I think I was like a year and a couple months when I started working in treatment.
yeah.
Because I was totally like, I'm not going to work in treatment. I'm going to keep my recovery and work separate.
Mhm.
And I didn't realize that I could do that while working in treatment.
Right.
It's
You know,
hard.
it is.
It
But
is hard.
before I was laying floors. So
Yeah,
it was like, I can't really bring work. You know what I mean? I can't make flooring my recovery.
Right.
But I don't know, something happened. I wanted to get somebody in treatment. It was hard. And then I realized I wanted to do that. So.
Right. Yeah, it was weird because I never expected to work at the place I got sober either, and it's just like a bunch of my friends kind of started doing it,
Yeah.
and then like my roommates, and they would come home after work and they'd just be like talking about the day and whatever, and like I couldn't relate, and I was like, no, I'll do it, whatever.
Sure.
So I threw in an app. I'm like, they'll never hire me probably, because I was a pain in the neck when I was in treatment. Like I'm not a great client when I'm in treatment. I'm awful.
That's so weird.
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
know
and
you, and that's like not you.
yeah,
That's
I'm a
weird.
I'm a
I don't
pain.
see you not being compliant.
Oh, I'm very non-compliant.
We need someone to phone in and tell us about Justin.
Oh my God, that'd be great.
So
Let me tell you
The
about this
phone
kid.
lines just are blowing up.
they probably would. And and it was weird, and it was an adjustment, and like I went through that learning process of like, and a disclaimer to anyone who wants to do that as a career, who wants to do treatment, is like it is completely separate from my own recovery.
Mhm.
Like me going to work is not my recovery. Do I use the principles I've learned in recovery at work? I would at any job.
Mm-hmm.
But like it's two separate things. And like I went through that where like I wasn't working on myself for like when I was brand new working in treatment, and like I neglected my own personal recovery, and then like it got hard. And I took a break from working in treatment for a while, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to go back. And a guy that kind of was one of my mentors was like, "You'll know. It'll call you back." And then not too long later, it called, and I've been doing it ever since. And it's cool. Like I love what I do. I really do.
It takes a certain kind of person, I think, to just like really light up with, because it can be very draining.
Very draining.
Very draining. So I'm 2 years sober, and I struggle with boundaries a lot, and not necessarily like boundaries in my behaviors with people, but like knowing my limits.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I really struggle. And so, more recently in my personal life, I've taken on a new role, working in the industry. And yesterday I just laid on my couch and cried for 2 hours. Why was I crying? I can't tell you.
Wow.
I have no idea, right? But what I can tell you is that like my self-care has been terrible. Like my recovery has been like me, and so like my spirit is suffering by not doing the things that I know that I need to do, and so like when I was done crying, which I don't even know why I was crying, I was like, all right, like I got it, and like I went and worked at Sponsees, and I was like, okay, like I understand what I need to do right now. I got it, and that's just like something that I struggle with, and I know that about myself. I am like I'm such a good alcoholic. Like I'm an all-in kind of person. You put a job in front of me, I'm like, dude, I'm gonna be the best at this. I'm gonna do, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna work all day, I don't even need to sleep. Like sleep.
It's for the week.
I know, right?
I can live off Red Bull. It's totally good for me.
Yeah.
It's nourishing. Eat on the road. It's fine. Like I'm not gonna. No negative consequences.
Yeah.
No, I was saying. I think it's really common, and it doesn't even have to apply to working in treatment.
Right.
And
any occupation.
I'm in early recovery. You're gonna tell me that if I work 70 hours a week, I'm not gonna think about anything besides work for 70 hours a week. Like, it sounds pretty cool. And I feel like that's a really common pitfall for a lot of people in early recovery. I know I've seen it.
Yeah.
You've definitely seen it. I don't know if you've seen it.
What?
Of people in early recovery overworking.
Oh, just like all in. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say that I'm still crazy. I would say that, but like when I first got sober, I was so I know it's hard to believe. But when I first got sober, I was like, I'm like still a fast-paced person. Like I'm really fast. But when I first got sober, I was like, and so now like God always guides like women to me that are just like me to help. And I'm like, oh my God, can you just slow down? I was like, this is what my mentors had to do with. Oh my God, I feel so bad for them.
Right. That was the first time I was like trying to mentor somebody. I fully realized what my dad meant when he said, "You're just like me." Like that whole like, oh my God, you're just like me. I got that. And I was like, oof, I put somebody through this. I'm sorry.
So for people who are like, so the show is about like offering resources and education and prevention and letting people know that there's hope, so for people who are like still struggling or active, like what advice do you have to offer to them, or someone that's like yourself that's unsure if recovery is even what they want? Like what would you say to them?
Yeah, so I mean, I would say like reach out to someone. Like even if it's
reach out to Justin.
Reach out to me.
He literally just gave you guys his phone number.
Call me. No judgment at all if you don't want to stop. Like
Right.
I don't care. Like, that's okay. Like, I'm all about meeting someone where they're at. And like when I got sober, I had no idea if I was even interested in being sober. And like, it's so hard to even imagine when you're first getting sober and like all the stuff is piled up on you from what I did on my last run, and like to imagine actually being able to maintain sobriety for any length of time was unfathomable to me. But like when I started to talk to people that kind of understood and like understood how my head worked and understood like how I operated, like, and I started to trust people and I could talk to them and relate to them, and made it like a little easier and took it day by day. So like if you're struggling, like just reach out and talk to someone. There was, because I had gotten sober and then I'd relapsed for a while, and I would call this guy that I met in meetings, and we'd just talk, and he would never even bring up like, hey, you think it's time for you to get sober? We'd just talk.
Do you see the question for you?
No.
So it says, Justin, who is your biggest influence in getting sober?
Wow, that's a hard question.
Oh, I didn't know if it was the guy that
Yeah,
you're
I
calling.
did. That's why I
just-
thought you segued it.
I thought that
That's a good segue. Well done. But yeah, I mean, if I think about this guy, like, because I could call him and I was all messed up, but it was a voice of recovery that, so like when it was time and I knew like I could call that guy again. I was like,
I love what you just said. Like, you know, if you don't want to get sober, that's okay. So I remember there was a point in before I'd gotten sober where like people in my life were like telling me to go to AA, and I was like, yeah, you can F off. Like, I'm not going anywhere, you know? And so, and when I first got sober, I was so judgmental to people, and I was like, oh, like if they're not sober, nah, you know? And now I'm just like, it's cool, dude. Like wherever you're at, I love you. Like whatever you're going through, like who am I to judge you, you know? And I love that you practice that principle.
for sure.
It's really easy for us to forget where we came from.
Yeah.
You know, just having that one person that picked up the phone and was just like, okay, yeah, bud, like, I'm not going to co-sign it, but I'm going to love you. Like, that was huge. And that's what you're doing.
Right.
Whatever, like, who am I to play God in someone's life? You
Right.
know what I mean? Like, my job is to live by principle. That's my job. And it took me, I had a lot of pain in my own life because, like, people weren't behaving the way that I thought that they should, you know?
Yeah.
And it took, like, you know, some people, you know, letting me know very clearly that, like, I don't, it's my job to love people. It's my job to live by these principles. That's my only job that I have every day. Everything else I'm not in control of. My job is to show up and live by these principles. That's it.
Right. And I can't tell you how many times like I've had like people that are close to me that I care about deeply that have like went back out, or and like they'll still call me, and like I'll still answer that phone, and everything in me wants to be like, come on, dude, like let's get you somewhere. But like I don't want to ruin that chance to be helpful later. And then sometimes, and even recently, there a buddy of mine, it was 2 years later, and I got that call. He's like, all right, I think I'm ready.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, wow, I've been waiting for that, you know?
This was such a long 2 years.
Oh, yeah. Because like I know for me, if like there was people when I went back out before, they were like, come on, like you need to get sober. What are you doing? And like I didn't.
It's
feel,
such a turnoff when you're
right.
not ready.
I didn't feel comfortable talking to them when I was ready.
Right. Yeah. I mean, at the same, like, we want to make sure we're not enabling someone's behaviors, but you also want to make sure that you're not pushing someone away or causing more harm. And you know, sometimes people just need love.
Right.
That's it. They just like need someone to listen to them or to be there for them. What, Bobby?
No, I'm just thinking back in my own history and how big of a like.
The show's not that long.
You did the impossible, Jasmine.
Which is?
Shut me up.
You witnessed that, right?
I did.
That's wow. It's okay.
Oh, this is an excellent question. What do you do when you've been sober for a while and you're not doing good?
It's a good question. And that will happen.
I hit pain.
That will happen, you know? Like there's plenty of times where all of a sudden other things become more important. Like life, one of the pitfalls is like life can get really good. And when life gets really good, a lot of times I stop doing what helped get it good in the first place. I stop like really focusing on recovery as much and just like all this other stuff that's in my life now. And like the number one thing to do probably when like stuff isn't going so good is number one, get honest with someone about it.
Right.
And that can be hard with like, and I've had to even do that with some stuff I've been struggling with lately is like, and with over 5 years sober, it's like I don't want to tell someone like, I haven't been doing good. You know, I have this thing in me that built up that like, oh, I should be all right. Like, but sometimes I'm not all right. You know.
I think that that's so important to like, just because we get sober, like life's not great, you know. Like I'm in a place in my recovery where like I've been struggling. I'm like I've been told like it's time to do some work, you know.
And I honestly respect somebody with time that says that. Though.
Right.
Right, because if you're telling me that everything's amazing 24/7, I don't believe you. If you're telling me, yeah, I have this much time and I'm struggling, it's like, okay, this guy's real.
Right.
And this is going to happen. And if it happens to me, I don't have to feel like I can't share about it.
Right.
Like I can't talk to somebody about it. You know, so that's huge.
So we have, for those of you watching, there's the contacts too as well. So Avenues Recovery is at 81 Hall Street in Concord, New Hampshire. Their direct dial, if you want to call the treatment center directly, is 603-513-3234. And we didn't even get a chance to talk about Live Free. Oh my God, we have to have you on another show. Live Free Sober Living is absolutely beautiful. I've been to the Keene location. So there's Live Free Structured Sober Living, 70 Kelly Street, Manchester, New Hampshire. And that number, if you want to get in contact with anyone for Sober Living, is 877-932-6757. And we'll definitely have to have you on another show because we didn't even get into Live Free, and this one's almost over, you know.
Flies by.
It really does. We get, and you know, I would actually like to applaud you because you didn't say anything inappropriate.
Yes. I know. I had nothing to work with. I was like, I'm just waiting for the like, okay.
You were very well behaved. We had talked about before the show that you might not be, but you were. So you're allowed back for a second one.
Yes.
I mean, honestly, it doesn't really matter. I've been allowed back countless times. Like that's gonna.
Bobby's been on the show for almost a year now, so obviously we'll let anyone on. It was great having you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
For anybody at home that's watching and struggling, you know, as always, you can always reach out to Bobby or myself, but Justin has really made himself available. You know, he's given you his direct dial. He's given you the contact number for his treatment center. He's given you the contact number for his sober living. So if you're struggling, you know, reach out to him, reach out to anyone. So it's been a good show. Thank you. Thank you for watching, and we love you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.